One of my interests in vasculitis, particularly ANCA-associated vasculitis, is the role of T cells. Now we know, and understandably, we know and work a lot with antibodies. We can measure them, and they're very important in disease. But because these forms of vasculitis are autoimmune diseases, they also have a significant T cell involvement, which is a little bit understudied in ANCA-associated vasculitis. We've been very interested over a number of years working out how T cells are involved in causing and being part of the damage that occurs in ANCA-associated vasculitis. And what we've found, and I think it probably has some relevance to treatment, is that when neutrophils in this condition come to the kidney or the target tissue, they release their own antigen, their own protein, which can then be recognized by these autoreactive T cells that people also have. And this brings on a second and more damaging wave of injury. And I think that in the future, we should be looking at therapies that also modify the effects of T cells as well as antibodies. People with ANCA-associated vasculitis, the people that we treat, it can be very hard to know when to stop treatment and whether the disease has relapsed or come back. Currently, we use a number of clinical tests, clinical signs, but we also use the test of ANCA antibodies. And we know that when ANCA antibodies come back, the chance of relapse goes up, but in general, that's not enough to make major treatment decisions. This is an autoimmune disease, and we know that autoimmunity comes back by measuring antibodies. There is an increased chance. And I believe we should be looking at T cells and whether T cells are also coming back in terms of their autoimmunity. The trick is these are hard to measure. Antibodies are relatively easy to measure, but if we could match together, as well as some other indicators of the immune system, antibodies and T cell reactivity, we might have a better chance of knowing when to stop treatment to prevent over-treating our patients and when to restart treatment to prevent relapses that can damage organ and tissues. I and my colleagues from Australia and New Zealand have for many years admired the activities and the excellence of EUVAS, first in clinical trials and later in education. And this prompted us in Australia and New Zealand to set up our own vascular society called ANZVASC, the Australian New Zealand Vascular Society. And one of our major aims in these rare diseases is to work and collaborate and work together with EUVAS. We're very keen to do that. We have a similar outlook and similar aims of improving care for patients with vasculitis. We have committees in clinical trials and education and a registry, and these are all areas that I believe we could collaborate starting in a small way, but later in a larger way with EUVAS to get a more global perspective on vasculitis and increase numbers of people that we are studying and working with these rare but significant diseases. I hope this is something we can do and expand in the future, and it's been a great pleasure to be at the EUVAS course.